Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I want to talk to you for a bit about Exo One. This is a game that I found during a Steam Game Festival / Steam Next Fest, and I've really been looking forward to it. In fact, I immediately sent out an email saying, hey, do you guys have press copies available yet? They sent me a copy, but the copy only had like the first third of the game in it, which was less than an hour. And my first impressions usually like going at least a little further than that, so I was like, hey, any date on when the full copy will be available? They never got back to me, but the copy never got rescinded, and today, as I'm recording this, they added the full game as part of a patch. So, I've played through it, and I would really like to tell you about it, because frankly, this game's fantastic. Now, it's not massively deep, and it's not very long. The game took me about 2.5 hours to beat if you count both my play sessions over the months that it took me to actually beat this. And you can technically beat it in under 60 minutes, but you're not going to do that the first time around, no chance. You will absolutely need to get used to the way the game handles and controls and what have you. With that said though, actually playing it is a joy. You remember the old game Tiny Wings? Where you would have these dips and these hills and they would go on forever, and you would have to time your like heavier gravity so that you would gain speed on the down slopes, and then on the up slopes you'd let go and it'd let you soar into the sky. Exo One is that concept adapted to 3D with a science fiction story attached to it. The controls are really simple. You've got the right trigger, which activates your gravity drive, which basically just makes you a hell of a lot heavier, and therefore you'll go a bit faster down slopes, but you'll slow down on the up slopes. You've got a jump button that you can use twice to give yourself a little bit extra air, and while you're in the air, you hold the left trigger in and it lets you glide. This lets you maintain your air height, but it slows you down a fair bit. And you can combine these together in order to make some incredibly smooth movement. So you can hold the left trigger to glide, hold the right trigger to dive, and then use that to pull back up out of a really big dive and gain a big boost of speed. And it is immensely satisfying to do this at pretty much all times, because the game itself is just so inherently satisfying to deal with. Every slope works as a down slope, every little upslope works as a way to get yourself up in the air, and it handles incredibly smoothly. It works just as you would expect it to, and it is genuinely so much fun every single time that you manage to get a lot of speed up, or you manage to get right into that downslope, or you manage to get that glide right into where you are going. There is a little bit more to it, like how your glides are limited by the amount of energy you have, so you need to be building up energy by going down really fast, and you also need to be finding certain collectibles in the world. There's one per level, I believe, and these will increase the amount of time that you can glide for. And they have little things like boost pads and clouds that'll give you your energy back, so it's not entirely just holding the triggers. You do need to aim for specific spots. You do want to gain speed because it's incredibly satisfying to do. And they change up the gimmick of every stage as you go. So you'll one level you'll find yourself not being able to actively gain speed, actively gain energy and glide, so you'll need to get higher up into the air. There's another level where it's entirely water, but there'll be meteors impacting the surface of the water, so you'll need to get into their path to fly straight up to get some airtime off of them. And then there'll be one of my favorite levels, which I won't spoil the gimmick of, but let me put it this way, it puts Super Mario Galaxy to shame with how good it feels. So, the game itself is just immensely satisfying to play. It's been incredibly well polished and tweaked for the movement of the ball. It's technically an alien drone, but for the movement of the ball, it genuinely feels fantastic almost every second of the game. The only downside is that the camera can be a little bit of a putz. You get stuck in a corner and it's kind of oriented to always be facing you in the direction you need to go, because a lot of these levels are really open and it can be really easy to lose your way, but thankfully the camera tries to stick to the way you need to go as much as possible, even if that results in you ending up in a little bit of a hole that you need to like go towards the camera in order to get out of and therefore be completely blind. There's no like penalty for this, there's nothing that can kill you, so it's not like this is a massive problem. I'm just bringing it up because it does impact the enjoyment of the game just a little bit, and a freer camera in those situations at the very least would be nice. With that said though, I'm kind of skimming over what makes this game special, because those mechanics on their own would make a game decent but not great. What makes this game great is its looks, because holy shit, this game is gorgeous. It is genuinely one of the best looking games I have played in a long time. Every single effect looks fantastic. The way that the ball moves and the effect on the surface of the ball itself, all of that stuff just looks great. All of the environments, minus like one or two things, look fantastic. Every single planet that you visit over the course of the game looks entirely different and is entirely memorable in a completely different way as a result. It is genuinely just such a good looking game, but your computer will pay for it, because I put everything on Ultra, and I would probably recommend you do the same thing if you're playing this on PC, because good lord, it deserves it. But my computer also was crying out for help from time to time, because 8700K and RTX 2080 is a decent PC these days, although it's starting to be outclassed by newer CPUs and newer GPUs, but it was managing to hold 60 most of the time, but it was close. So anything weaker than that is probably going to have trouble running this game in the way that it deserves to be run. So just be wary of that. But still, the game just looks absolutely fantastic pretty much all the bloody time, and it has almost no right to. There's like one part of the game that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. And that's anytime trees show up, because it always tends to look just that little bit barren. That little bit, there should be more here, but there isn't, and it feels kind of weird sort of situation, especially when you roll directly into the trees and they aren't affected by your touching the trees at all. Even if it was just them being pushed out of the way by you passing by, that would make that feeling of speed you get so much more satisfying in these sections in particular, because any other time that you go up to maximum speed, a big smoke ring billows out from you, the screen changes colors, and you are absolutely going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And it is absolutely brilliant, but you do it in the middle of these trees and it just kind of feels like you're just there. And there is another level that you'll see in this footage that also kind of has this problem. I'm trying to save the really good stuff as a surprise because, well, that's what surprises are for, that's what the game is for. But yeah, I wish there was just a bit more in the way of detail there. Even if there was just grass. Like just flat grass sprites just scattered around in amongst the trees that you see throughout the game a couple of times. That would make those areas a lot more believable. And the alien structures are really believable. They look so good with their flatness and the way their textures are so shiny and the way they stick out from the environment. The majority of the environments look really good. Their textures are fantastic. The ways that the environment is made is, the natural environment at least I should say, looks really believable and is genuinely just nice to look at. So all these trees just kind of sticking out is a little bit of a problem for me personally, but there you go. It's also really helped out by the soundscape, because it's actually a relatively quiet game. The soundtrack is, what's the word I'm looking for? It sticks around in the background and it never gets in the way, but as a result it helps add to the atmosphere perfectly. There are a few sound effects here and there, but most of them don't stick out from anything. It all just blends together into this lovely soundscape that you can just kind of get lost in for a bit. Which for a game like this is really nice. And as I said, yeah, 2.5 hours, roughly. That's the amount of time I spent beating it. And there are achievements for finding all of the energy pickups, finding beating the game in, I believe it was 60 minutes. Although, again, you need to be really damn good at this game to pull that off. You need to not be running... You need to be running at absolute maximum speed all the time for that to even be remotely possible. And there's also ones about, like, getting really high on certain stages, getting really fast on certain stages, but that's pretty basic. You'll get them in the process of getting all the others, I reckon. So there is some replayability, but there's no, like, challenge modes. There's no... extra pickups to go find, and the story is pretty much one and done. I won't tell you too much about what it's about, although there's not really that much to it, but it's about a astronaut who sort of goes on a sort of journey of rescuing his friends, we'll put it that way. That's about as far as it goes, honestly. It's not particularly deep, but thankfully it doesn't get in the way that much either. It's mainly just, like, cutscenes in between the levels, which aren't very long, so they don't disturb the flow of the gameplay in any particular way. And there's, what's the word I'm looking for? There's... brain work with me here. There's, like, little flashes of certain story-related elements that you get over the course of particular stages. It doesn't get in the way. Like, it's barely there. It's kind of nice how it ends up. But I will say that, yeah, you're not really in this for the story. But considering that it's willing to stay out of the way, and it doesn't interrupt the flow of the gameplay in any meaningful measure, I'm willing to let it go. I'm willing to call that one a wash. So, yeah, I maintain that Exo One is absolutely brilliant. I adore it. I think it is an absolutely fantastic game, and it sits in the same area of games as Flower and Abzu, where they're not particularly deep, but they're really pretty, inherently relaxing, and just a joy to play. Even if they are a bit mechanically lightweight, we'll just say that much. And I wholeheartedly recommend you pick it up. Wholeheartedly. I enjoyed pretty much every minute of this that I played. And thankfully it's a short game, so it had no opportunities to not be enjoyable. With that said, I'm going to shut up and let you watch the second stage of this gameplay. This has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.